I wanted to talk again about Inside Out 2 and sort of this phenomenon I've seen on Twitter and social media in general, where a lot of people before the movie and now even after the movie has come out have been talking about how Riley, the now 13-year-old girl in the movie, is gay. There were trailers and images of her looking very excited to see an older girl named Val in the movie. And of course, because she's smiling really big at this older girl, a lot of people immediately assume and then immediately insist that she must have a crush on this girl and that this is, Pixar going LGBTQ, and that even when the movie comes out and shows that none of that is actually the case, people are still saying, you cannot tell me that Riley is straight. This is still, gay coded. This is, maybe a bait and switch. Everyone thought that the secret scene at the end of the movie with Riley's deep, dark secret would be that she was actually a lesbian. So there's this article in Vulture that really is sort of emblematic of what I'm talking about here. This is by Nate Jones, a Vulture writer. And he talks about how in the movie Riley goes to hockey camp, and there she meets Val, who becomes the focus of Riley's entire life. Every move she makes is in service of getting closer to Val and hopefully getting Val to like her. In the text of the film, this is merely because she really, really wants to just like Val. But you don't have to squint too hard to see a subtext where Riley is so obsessed with a beautiful, accomplished teammate because she has romantic feelings for her. A further hint to this possibility occurs near the end of the film's first act, after joy, sadness, and the rest of the emotions we know from the first Inside Out, spoilers, have been evicted from the mind's control room and replaced by more complex ones like anxiety, envy, and ennui. Ennui. They're locked away in a vault where they meet other repressed elements of Riley's psyche. There's her favorite character from a little kid's cartoon, a PS2-style video game character she used to have a crush on, and also her deep, dark secret, which naturally takes the form of a gigantic rock monster shrouded in a tunic, too shy to reveal itself. By this point, a discerning viewer has put the pieces together. Riley's secret is that she's gay, or she's bi, or pansexual, or just generally queer, happy pride. Oh my god, okay. A discerning viewer must assume what fucking Nate Jones thinks, because obviously the only kind of deep dark secret a kid could have is that she's gay, or bi, or pansexual, or just generally queer. The more vague we make it, the more straight people can call themselves that. However, years of experience with Disney and Pixar led me to believe that the movie would not leave us hanging. These companies never let an Easter egg go unhatched. There must be some resolution, and I was determined to see it out. Surely the question would be answered in a mid-credits interstitial. No such thing. There was a mid-credits scene, but it was just a jokey little bit about the character Ennui. Que surprise. But by this point I simply had to know. Oh, I was so curious. So I took a leap of faith, which is to say I stayed sitting as the rest of the credits rolled. My persistence paid off. After the MPA seal, there was joy, coaxing the deep dark secret to come out from the vault, which one might note is not unlike a closet. After some hemming and hawing, it finally did, upon which we learned that Riley's secret was she once burned a hole in a rug. This part's interesting. I'll admit, a tiny, terrible part of me was prepared to roll my eyes at a gay revelation. A pointedly inclusive Pixar movie? Groundbreaking. But what we got instead is just baffling. Now, there's nothing personally at stake for me in animated characters' sexuality one way or another, but I hate feeling like a weirdo, and this made me feel like a weirdo. No, you kind of are a weirdo. The film's queer coding is so blatant. If this microphone was a wall, I would bang my head against it. The film's queer coding is so blatant that I thought we were all on the same page, only for the movie to pull the rug out and say, why are you even thinking about this fake tween's possible gayness? Yes! Dude, you've hit the nail on the fucking head. This is such a strange thing. This is not actually confined, I would say, to just, the gay community. I think that this insistence that people or characters in shows and movies, even in video games, have to have to have some sexual attraction to other characters is actually kind of a weird phenomenon in just our modern culture. And it's one reason that I actually, and I'll get into this in a minute, it's one reason why I actually don't love that so many RPGs are just filled with romance options, like the new Veilguard, Dragon Age Veilguard game. You can romance every single one of your companions, and it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman because they're all pansexual. Frankly, I would like more RPGs that didn't even have romance options. I don't know why we have to have everything be about romance. But anyways, in Inside Out 2, this is a 13-year-old girl, and it's a family movie. So, frankly, I'm glad there wasn't sexuality explored in any way. I'm glad that this wasn't about a boy she had a crush on or a girl she had a crush on. This is nothing against, LGBTQ people either. If there's a movie about, that wants to explore that, great. This just isn't that movie, and you don't have to always sort of self-insert into everything you see and make it about something that it's not. And it's crazy the kind of traction these tweets get, like hundreds of thousands of views, and so many people so invested in this when, it just turns out that this, and they're also saying that there's some sort of this bait and switch thing that Pixar was tricking people into thinking this. I don't know about you, but when I watched the Inside Out 2 trailer, I just thought, hey, it's a movie about the little girl from the first movie going through puberty and getting a bunch of extra emotions, and a broader emotional range, like anxiety and all of that stuff. Ennui. I never once thought a single thing about her sexuality. I don't think that's relevant, and I don't care. I don't care if she's straight or gay. It doesn't matter to me. And I don't know why it should. I think this is a part of a larger problem with shipping. So many fans, it's as though they cannot connect with characters or stories unless their wish fulfillment is happening, and their wish fulfillment happens to be romantic involvement of characters that they like. So they ship that's the term, shipping. I actually don't even know where that came from, but there's probably a very good explanation. Anyways, it's relationship, right? They're relationshipping them. Duh. I don't know why I never thought of that. I just had to think of that for 2 seconds. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, they shipping them. I think of ships, I think of the sea is always right. The worst ship I can think of is, now I just hear relationship. The worst one I can think of is Elicity. And for anyone who watched Arrow on the CW, that show started out pretty strong, right? Good characters, a lot of violence. The Green Arrow in that, he Oliver Queen, not Oliver Stone or Oliver Cromwell or Oliver Twist, the other Oliver Queen. He was great. John Diggle was great. And Felicity Smoke was great. I wasn't a big fan of Black Canary, but she got better with time. And I liked some of the other female characters more. Who was the one? Sarah, was it? The Black Canary's sister? I can't remember who that was. But anyway, she was great. I thought that she had the best chemistry with Oliver. There I go, shipping the two of them, though. Ultimately, Oliver and Felicity, they hooked up, got married and stuff, and Elicity became the center of that show. And this romance and all its fucking melodrama became the center of that show. Now, that wasn't the only problem with Arrow. Arrow and The Flash, which are the only two CW shows I've ever watched, but both of them started out really strong, and then they both devolved into this constant relationship melodrama, which I guess is what the young people like. And they also constantly created drama through characters lying to one another for no good reason. And then the third sin was giving all the characters superpowers or making them all part of the superhero team. This was, you go from Oliver as the Green Arrow in the beginning is all by himself. He's got his bodyguard. He doesn't let anybody know who he is at first. And slowly he develops a very small team. And then by the, fourth or fifth season, it's like every fight scene was like 8 people fighting 8 people. Terrible choreography because they have to choreograph so many fucking people instead of the cool fight scenes that were in the beginning. And then, of course, so much of it devolved into illicity. So I don't really think that this stuff that's going on with Riley, or you see a lot of this self-inserting with characters who, these people on Tumblr and Twitter and everything insist must be gay. I think it's just the same kind of cultural phenomenon. And I would say cultural sickness that's infected, straight people or fans of any sexual preference or sexual identity or whatever. People are obsessed with inserting what they want into these stories, and ultimately it's usually not great. It's not great. It's sort of like how representation in and of itself isn't good enough, right? You can't just have representation like in a bad show. You can't just say, oh, we've got all these minorities and we've got all this LGBTQ representation. It doesn't, quantity's bullshit, man. It's quality that matters. So if you just focus on representation and diversity, but then put out a dog shit show, honestly, that's almost more insulting to minorities, to gay people, to women, to whoever you're trying to represent, because you're saying, look, you guys just need to be represented. You don't need to have a good show. You don't need to, and then everyone in the press and all the fans defend these terrible shows, and they have to defend it with such animosity and vigor, because everyone knows deep down that something like Night Country or The Acolyte isn't very good, or Rings of Power, all these shows that are like, hey, look how diverse we are. We don't need to have a decent script. Like, we don't actually care about these people. We just want to make money, so anyone who doesn't like our dog shit show is a bigot. And that's kind of where we come down to with a lot of this. But I just find, I don't know, man, I find it kind of creepy, honestly, all this obsession over something like Inside Out 2. Like, it's one thing if it's a movie for grown-ups and people are speculating about the character's sexuality, but this is a show for kids and families, right? Like, you go to this show with your kids, you don't want to be worried about like anything sexual coming into that, because this is like a G-rated movie, like this is for, I mean, obviously Inside Out 2 is about teenagers and their parents, but it's still designed to be a goofy, colorful cartoon for children. I don't want it to be about any kind of sexual exploration. There are other series and other movies for that, which are fine. That's how they're marketed, and that's what they're for, and you know that going in. You don't need that in a Pixar movie that's designed for kids. And I wouldn't want that for, I wouldn't want it to be all about her crushing on boys. I think that'd be much less interesting. And that gets to this other point, which is, can't we just have platonic friendships anymore? Right? Can't we just have platonic relationships in general? And this is why I find it's such a cheap and easy way out for like these big, RPGs like Dragon Age or whatever, even Baldur's Gate, which I think is great. I just find it's almost a crutch relying on romantic relationships all the time and romancing your companions all the time, when we could be writing stories about great friendships and about even, maybe not even great friendships, but rivalries within a party, I mean, think of one of the most interesting moments in The Lord of the Rings is Boromir effectively going against Frodo, going against his vow and trying to take the ring, right? That's the kind of stuff that really, we didn't need a romance between Aragorn and Boromir in The Lord of the Rings. Or between, honestly, I didn't like the movies, how much they played up Aragorn and Arwen. I just think that was kind of the most boring and unnecessary part of the whole trilogy. I just think that sometimes it's okay to have stories about friendship, Sam and Frodo. And of course, that's a great example where it's, a lot of people joked about that, about them being gay, but a lot of people also are like very convinced and very excited that they are, and it's so silly. Sam especially, I mean, maybe Frodo was gay, but Sam made it very clear that he was not. He liked Rosie. He liked her a lot. They have a lot of babies to prove it. Anyways, I just think this is sort of a tragedy of modern culture, and I think it's I've been thinking about this since I wrote my review of Inside Out 2, and then then I found this piece by an author or a writer, an online writer I really like, Freddie DeBoer, who I've mentioned before, and I will link to his piece because I think he talks a lot about how a lot of people in our modern culture feel entitled to this kind of stuff. They're entitled to these things, these fictional things, these everything, all this stuff that's just Hollywood. It's just Hollywood, rather than like actually, fighting and trying to fight for material rights like food and shelter and healthcare. It's just this constant fight over, is Riley gay in Inside Out 2, or and how much of a bigot are you if you push back against that. I'll link to that because I'm not going to read it. It's very long, and but it's very well written. So he talks about sort of, I'll read this to the end, but he talks about how now people are really they're trying to get famous. Everyone's trying to become a celebrity. Meanwhile, so many among us chase what seems to be the only transcendence we still recognize in a post-religion, post-romantic ideal, post-family culture, which is the dream of celebrity. By design, that's a game very few can win. Meanwhile, the basic reality of human life pulses on. For those lucky enough to live in at least minimal economic comfort, adult life is about boredom and disappointment, and then you die. Traditionally, we've survived this grim scenario by holding fast to deeply held virtues that we take very seriously. Sadly, I'm told that holding fast to deeply held virtues is cringe. So, anyways, I will end there. Let me know what you think about all this. Let me know what you think about Inside Out 2. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Peace.